Greg Martinez rubbed his tired eyes as he stared at the message on his screen. Another rejection from the Galactic Council. 7 years since humans had joined the galactic community, and Earth still struggled to be taken seriously. The office of Earth's ambassador on Galactia Prime was small compared to those of other species. Greg looked out the window at the massive crystal spires that housed the representatives of older, more established civilizations. Humans were newcomers, and the council made sure they knew it. His communication device buzzed. The caller ID showed President Diane Miller. "Mr. Ambassador, have you made any progress?" the president asked, her voice tense. "No, Madam President. The council refuses to acknowledge our concerns about Varaxian movements near Proxima Centauri. We have 10,000 colonists there, Greg. Intelligence reports suggest the Varaxians are planning something." Greg sighed. "The council claims the Varaxians are conducting authorized scientific research. They say our concerns are just human paranoia." The president's expression hardened. "Keep pushing them. I've got a bad feeling about this." After the call ended, Greg walked to the Central Council building. The massive structure housed representatives from over 200 species. Humans were one of the newest additions, their seat located in the far back corner of the chamber. The council session was already underway when Greg arrived. Grand Arbiter Zolan, a tall, blue-skinned being with 4 arms, was addressing the assembly about trade routes in the Orion sector. Greg waited patiently for the open comments period. When it finally came, he approached the speaker's platform. "The Earth government requests immediate attention to Varaxian activity in the Proxima Centauri system, where our colony, Ambassador Martinez," Zolan interrupted. "This matter has been addressed. The Varaxians have proper clearance for their research activities." From the Varaxian section, Ambassador Cricktick clicked his mandibles together in what Greg had learned was their version of a smug smile. "With respect, Arbiter, we have evidence suggesting these are not research vessels but military. Evidence not recognized by this council," Zolan stated firmly. "Next speaker." Greg was escorted away from the platform. As he walked back to his seat, he noticed the Taraxi ambassador, a small ancient species with skin like tree bark, watching him thoughtfully. Back in his office, Greg received an urgent message. The Proxima colony was under attack. Captain Lisa, Wright of the Earth Defense Force vessel, Dauntless, sent the first images. Varaxian ships had surrounded the colony. Ground forces were already landing. The colonists had minimal defenses. "We're 8 days out at maximum speed," Lisa reported. "But we need authorization to engage. The colony won't last 8 hours, let alone 8 days." Greg immediately returned to the council chamber, bypassing protocol. He burst into the room during a recess. "Proxima colony is under attack. The Varaxians are killing our people," he shouted. The chamber erupted in murmurs. Zolan called for order. "These are serious accusations, Ambassador," Zolan said. Greg projected Lisa's feed onto the main display. The images showed Varaxian troops firing on human civilians. "This is happening right now. We request immediate council intervention." Cricktick rose from the Varaxian section. "These humans violated territorial claims. We are simply protecting our interests." "What claims?" Greg demanded. "Proxima has been a human colony for 5 years. The council will need to deliberate," Zolan announced. "We will form a committee to investigate." "While you deliberate, people are dying," Greg shouted. A junior aide rushed in and whispered something to Greg. His face paled. "The colony's main habitat has been breached," he announced to the council. "Hundreds already dead. Do something." "We must follow proper procedures," Zolan insisted. As Greg stormed out of the chamber, the Taraxi ambassador approached him. "They knew," the ancient alien whispered. "Several council members supplied the Varaxians with colony defense codes. This was planned." Greg's hands trembled as he contacted President Miller. On the screen, her expression turned from shock to cold rage. "If the council won't help us," she said, "then we'll help ourselves." She turned to someone off screen. "Get me Fleet Admiral Thompson. Tell him to prepare all available ships." The order was given. Humanity would fight back, with or without Council approval. Fleet Admiral Paul Thompson stood on the bridge of the EDF Valiant, Earth's largest warship. Around him, officers prepared for humanity's first interstellar military operation. "All ships report ready, Admiral," said his executive officer. Paul nodded. On screen, the main display activated, showing 30 Earth vessels in formation around Luna Base. It wasn't much compared to the fleets of older galactic species, but it was everything humanity could muster. "Open channel to all ships," Paul ordered. He took a deep breath before speaking. "This is Admiral Thompson. As you know, our colony on Proxima Centauri is under attack. The Galactic Council has abandoned our people. We stand alone in this fight. But that's nothing new for humanity. We've always had to fight for our place among the stars." In the hangar bay of the Valiant, Lieutenant John Rivers inspected his tank one final time. The M820 Rhino was a marvel of human engineering, a heavily armored ground assault vehicle designed for extraterrestrial combat. Most galactic species considered such weapons primitive. They fought with energy shields and plasma weapons, not steel and explosive shells. "How's she looking, Lieutenant?" asked a woman's voice. John turned to see Engineer Samantha Kelly approaching. She carried a toolbox and wore the insignia of the Technical Corps on her uniform. "Ready as she'll ever be," John replied, "though I never thought we'd be using these in actual combat against aliens." Samantha ran her hand along the tank's armored side. "The Varaxians won't expect these. According to intel, they rely on energy, weapons that disperse across surfaces. They've never dealt with concentrated kinetic impacts. Let's hope that gives us an edge," John said. "We're outnumbered badly." Samantha opened her toolbox and pulled out a small device. "That's why I'm here. I've modified the armor plating to better absorb their energy weapons. It won't make you invincible, but it should buy you time." As she worked on installing the device, John watched the other tanks in the bay. 12 vehicles, each with a 4-person crew. Some of the youngest soldiers were barely 20 years old. Many had never seen combat. "Do you think we can win this?" John asked quietly. Samantha paused her work. "I think we have to." On the other side of the ship, Captain Lisa Wright prepared her dropships. Each would carry troops and vehicles to the planet's surface once the space battle was won. If it was won. "Captain," a young lieutenant called out, "message from Earth." Lisa checked her screen. President Miller's face appeared. "Captain Wright, your mission is clear. Secure our people and take back our colony. Use whatever force necessary." "Yes, Madam President. What about the Council sanctions?" The President's expression was grim. "By the time we're done, they'll understand we're not to be trifled with. Good luck, Captain." As the fleet prepared to depart, Greg Martinez watched from his office on Galactia Prime. His aide entered with news. "Sir, the Council is demanding information about Earth's military movements." Greg didn't turn from the window. "Tell them we're responding to an attack on our sovereign territory. Tell them we requested help and were denied." "Sir, they're threatening severe sanctions." Greg finally turned. "Ask them if their sanctions will bring back the dead colonists." Back on the Valiant, Admiral Thompson gave the order. "All ships, prepare for jump." The human fleet vanished into faster-than-light travel, leaving the Sol system behind. In his tank, John Rivers checked his crew's readiness. His gunner, driver, and communications specialist all prepared for what lay ahead. "Lieutenant," the comms specialist said, "Admirals addressing all ground forces." Paul Thompson's voice came through their headsets. "Soldiers of Earth, we are about to fight the first human interstellar war. The odds are against us. The enemy outnumbers us. But we have something they don't. We have the unconquerable human spirit. Throughout our history, we've faced extinction many times. Each time we've survived and grown stronger. The Varaxians and their Council allies are about to learn what happens when you corner humanity." The fleet surged through space toward Proxima Centauri, carrying humanity's response to an uncaring galaxy. The human fleet exited faster-than-light travel near Proxima Centauri. What they saw shocked even the most prepared among them. "My God," Admiral Thompson whispered. Proxima Centauri B, the planet with the human colony, was surrounded by Varaxian ships. Not just a few dozen as intelligence had suggested, but hundreds. The main colony dome on the surface was visibly damaged. Fires burned across the settlement areas. Tactical analysis, Thompson ordered. An officer replied, Voraxian forces. Outnumber us 5-1, sir. Their ships are concentrating fire on the colony's southern section, where most survivors appear to be holding out. Captain Lisa Wright's voice came over the comm. Admiral, request permission to launch dropships. We need to get ground forces to the colony before it's too late. Thompson knew this was a gamble. Normally, they would secure orbital superiority before landing troops, but the colony wouldn't last that long. Permission granted, Captain. We'll provide what cover we can. In the hangar bay, John Rivers and his tank crew prepared for immediate deployment. Samantha Kelly rushed between vehicles, making last-minute adjustments. These modifications should hold, she told John, but the Voraxian weapons are stronger than we expected. Don't take direct hits if you can avoid it. No promises, John replied. You staying on the ship? Samantha snapped her toolbox shut. No. Wait, I need to see how these modifications work in real combat. I'm coming with you. John wanted to argue but knew there wasn't time. Stay close to my tank. The dropships launched into space, immediately drawing fire from Voraxian vessels. Several were hit, but most pushed through toward the planet's surface. John's tank was secured inside Dropship 7, along with 3 other tanks and 50 infantry soldiers. The descent was rough. Their pilot dodged enemy fire while the passengers held on tight. 30 seconds to landing, the pilot shouted. John checked his weapon systems one last time. All crews ready for immediate combat upon landing. The dropship hit the ground hard, its doors blasting open. John's tank roared to life, treads spinning as it drove down the ramp into hell. The landscape around the colony was chaos. Voraxian ground troops, tall insectoid creatures with 4 arms and natural armor, were everywhere. They fired energy, weapons that melted through the colony's outer structures. Target those heavy weapons first, John ordered his gunner. The tank's main cannon fired. The sound was deafening, even inside the vehicle. The shell struck a Voraxian position, exploding in a way the aliens clearly hadn't expected. Their energy shields, designed to disperse energy weapons, did nothing against physical projectiles. Across the battlefield, other human tanks began firing. The Voraxians seemed confused by this form of attack. Their tactics changed, focusing fire on the new threat. Samantha ran between damaged human vehicles, making quick repairs. She ducked as energy. Blasts flew overhead. The modifications are working, she called over the radio, but they're adapting. They're starting to concentrate fire on the same spots. John's tank took a direct hit, leaving a scorch mark on the armor. How many hits can we take? 3, maybe 4 on the same spot before breach, Samantha replied. John directed his driver to keep moving. Never stay still enough for them to hit the same place twice. The battle raged for hours. Human infantry worked in coordination with the tanks, something the Voraxians seemed unfamiliar with. The aliens fought as individuals or small groups, while humans moved in practice formations. By the 6th hour, John's tank was barely operational. Its exterior was scorched black, and one tread was damaged. The cannon still worked, but ammunition was running low. We need to push to the colony dome, John said. Admiral reports our fleet is holding its own in space, but we need to secure the survivors now. His gunner pointed ahead. Sir, there's a lot of them between us and the dome. John looked at the mass of Voraxian troops. Then we go through them. He opened the channel to all remaining tanks. This is Lieutenant Rivers. Form up and prepare for a direct assault on the Voraxian line. We break through to the colony in one push. The human tanks, battered and smoking, formed a wedge formation. The infantry took positions between and behind them. For Earth, John said. Forward! The tanks charged, cannons firing. Voraxian troops fell back, unused to such aggression. As the humans pushed forward, Voraxian blood, a deep purple liquid, splashed across the tanks' hulls, mixing with the red human blood of the fallen. News of the battle at Proxima Centauri spread through the galaxy faster than anyone expected. The Galactic Council chambers erupted in chaos as the reports came in. The humans have defeated the Varaxian forces, a Lumidarian representative announced, his glowing form pulsing with agitation. They used primitive weapons, physical projectiles, and armored vehicles. Grand Arbiter Zolon struggled to maintain order as various species shouted questions and concerns. "This is unprecedented," Zolon declared. The humans were explicitly warned not to engage in military action. In his small office, Greg Martinez watched the council broadcast with grim satisfaction. When his communication device buzzed, he answered to find Admiral Thompson's tired face. "We've secured the colony, Ambassador," Thompson reported. "We lost 30% of our forces, but we saved over 7,000 colonists." Greg nodded. "And the Varaxians?" "Retreated from the system entirely. Their ground forces were unprepared for our tactics." "The Council is in an uproar," Greg said. "They're calling for sanctions against Earth. Some are even suggesting military action." Thompson's expression hardened. "Let them try. We've proven what humans can do when pushed." On Proxima Centauri B, the human forces were regrouping. John Rivers sat on the hull of his tank, watching medics treat the wounded. The vehicle was barely recognizable after the battle. Its armor was scorched black from energy weapons, and both human and alien blood stained its surface in a grotesque pattern of red and purple. Samantha Kelly approached, her uniform torn and dirty. "How's your crew?" "Driver has a broken arm. Gunner and comms specialist are okay. You?" "I'm fine." She ran her hand along the tank's damaged armor. "These old machines saved us today. The Varaxians never expected kinetic weapons to bypass their shields." John looked at the colony dome where survivors were receiving medical attention. "How many did we lose?" "Too many," Samantha replied quietly. "But without us, it would have been everyone." Their conversation was interrupted by Captain Lisa Wright. "Lieutenant Rivers, Engineer Kelly, Admiral Thompson wants you both on the next shuttle to the Valiant. We've received new orders from Earth." Back on Galactia Prime, the Council's inner chamber was in session. The representatives of the most powerful species debated the human situation. "They must be punished," insisted the Varaxian ambassador Crick-Tick. "They attacked our research mission without provocation." The Taraxi ambassador, whose species rarely spoke at council meetings, stood up. "Research mission? Your ships were armed for war." "Self-defense only," Crick-Tick clicked angrily. "The humans have demonstrated dangerous capabilities," said a representative from the Grell Collective. "Their use of physical projectile weapons shows a barbaric nature." Greg Martinez entered the chamber, surprising everyone. He wasn't scheduled to speak. "The Council has requested that Earth's president appear to answer for our actions," Greg announced. "President Miller has agreed on one condition." Solon narrowed his four eyes. "Earth is in no position to make conditions." "Our condition is simple," Greg continued. "We will bring evidence of the Varaxian attack, we will bring survivors to testify, and we will bring the vehicles that saved our colony." The chamber went silent. Greg looked at each council member slowly. "You wanted to see what humans are capable of. Now you will." On the Valiant, Admiral Thompson briefed John and Samantha on their new mission. "President Miller is going to address the Galactic Council directly," he explained. "She wants you both there, along with your tanks." "Our tanks?" John asked. "They're damaged, covered in blood, and barely operational." "That's exactly why she wants them," Thompson said. "The Council needs to see what their inaction forced us to do. They need to see the cost of this battle." President Miller's face appeared on the main screen. "Lieutenant Rivers, Engineer Kelly, you fought bravely to save our people. Now I need you for a different kind of battle." She looked tired but determined. "Load your tanks onto my diplomatic vessel. We're going to Galactia Prime to show the Council exactly what happens when humanity is pushed too far." Samantha looked at John. "Should we clean them first? The tanks are covered in blood and damage." "No," the president said firmly. "Let them see what they caused. Let them see the consequences of their decisions." The order went out across the fleet. Humanity would make its statement to the Galactic Council, and they would do it with the blood-stained tanks of Proxima Centauri. President Miller's diplomatic vessel, the Olive Branch, traveled through space toward Galactia Prime. The irony of its name was not lost on anyone aboard, especially with 4 battle-damaged tanks secured in its cargo hold. John Rivers couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the battle. Humans and Varaxians dying, buildings collapsing, the desperate faces of colonists as his tank broke through enemy lines to reach them. He wandered to the cargo bay where his tank sat. In the dim lighting, the dried blood looked black against the scorched metal. He placed his hand on the cold surface. "Can't sleep either?" Samantha Kelly asked, stepping out from behind another tank. John shook his head. "Every time I close my eyes, I'm back there." "I know," she said. "I keep thinking about what I could have done differently. Better armor, stronger weapons, maybe fewer people would have died." "We did what we could with what we had," John said. "That's all anyone can do." Samantha ran her hand along a deep gouge in the tank's armor. "Some of the crew want to clean them up before we reach the council. They say it looks barbaric. That's the point, isn't it? To show them what they made us do?" A voice from the doorway interrupted them. "Exactly right, Lieutenant." They turned to see President Miller entering the cargo bay. Both soldiers straightened and saluted. "At ease," she said. "I couldn't sleep either." The president walked slowly around John's tank, examining the damage. Unlike most politicians, Diane Miller had served in Earth's military before entering politics. She understood what these soldiers had been through. "The Council thinks of humans as children," she said. "New to the galactic stage, naive, in need of guidance. That ends now." She touched a patch of dried Varaxian blood on the tank's tread. "They need to see this. They need to understand that we will defend our own, with or without their approval." The journey to Galactia Prime took 3 days. As they approached, their communication system lit up with messages from the galactic authorities. "They're ordering us to use a specific landing zone far from the council chambers," reported the ship's captain. "Ignore it," President Miller said. "We land at the main diplomatic port, as is our right." "They're threatening to deny landing clearance entirely," the captain warned. Greg Martinez's face appeared on the main screen. "Madam President, I've informed the Council that any attempt to prevent your landing will be considered a hostile act against Earth. They've backed down, but they're not happy." "Good," Miller replied. "They shouldn't be happy. They abandoned our people and now they'll face the consequences." As the Olive Branch approached Galactia Prime, everyone on board got their first view of the Council world. It was beautiful, a planet of sweeping oceans and elegant cities that seemed to grow from the landscape rather than being built upon it. "Hard to believe something so pretty could house something so rotten," Samantha murmured. The ship entered the atmosphere, descending toward the capital city. Through the viewports, they could see thousands of aliens watching their arrival. News of the human victory had spread, and many were curious about these newcomers who had defeated the Varaxians. "Look at that," John said, pointing at a massive structure in the distance. The council hall was enormous, a crystal and metal building that towered over the surrounding city. It was designed to be impressive, to make lesser species feel small and insignificant. "Prepare the tanks for unloading," President Miller ordered. "Lieutenant Rivers, Engineer Kelly, you'll drive your vehicles directly to the council hall." "Won't the local authorities try to stop us?" John asked. Miller smiled grimly. "Ambassador Martinez has informed them that the tanks are part of our diplomatic presentation. Technically, we're not breaking any rules." The Olive Branch landed with a gentle thud. As the cargo bay doors opened, sunlight streamed in, illuminating the battle-damaged tanks with their stains of human and alien blood clearly visible. A delegation of council security waited outside, looking nervous. Their weapons were held ready but not aimed. President Miller addressed her team one last time before disembarking. "Let them stare. Let them whisper. Today, humanity takes its proper place in the galaxy, not as children to be guided, but as equals to be respected." The council chambers were unlike anything John or Samantha had ever seen. The massive room stretched hundreds of meters in every direction, with seating areas rising in tiers around a central speaking platform. Representatives from over 200 species filled the chamber, their varied forms creating a living tapestry of galactic diversity. Grand Arbiter Zolon stood on the central platform, his blue skin reflecting the ambient light. His forearms were held in a formal position that indicated serious proceedings were underway. "The Council recognizes the human delegation," Zolon announced, his voice amplified throughout the chamber. President Miller walked forward, flanked by Greg Martinez and her security detail. She stood tall despite being physically smaller than many alien representatives. "Grand Arbiter, honored members of the Council," she began, "I come before you today to address the recent conflict at Proxima Centauri." A murmur ran through the assembly. Many representatives had never seen a human in person before. "Before I speak further," Miller continued, "I wish to present evidence of what occurred at our colony." She nodded toward the massive doors at the entrance to the chamber. They slowly swung open, revealing a sight that caused immediate uproar. 4 tanks, their hulls still bearing the scars of battle, rolled into the council chambers. The machines were imposing even by human standards, steel monsters with heavy treads that left marks on the polished floor. The dried blood of both humans and Varaxians created macabre patterns across their surfaces. John Rivers sat in the commander's position of the lead tank, guiding it slowly forward. Through his viewport, he could see the shocked expressions of countless alien species. Some recoiled in horror. Others stood to get a better view. "These vehicles," President Miller said over the noise, "defended our colony when this council refused to help. These machines, which many of you would call primitive, saved thousands of human lives." The tanks came to a stop in a semicircle behind her. The smell of battle, metal, blood, and burned materials filled the air around them. Zolon's upper arms raised in a gesture of disapproval. "This display is inappropriate, President Miller. Weapons are not permitted in the council chambers." "These are not weapons today," Miller replied calmly. "They are evidence." She gestured to a large viewing screen on the wall. "With your permission, we will now show footage from the Battle of Proxima Centauri." Without waiting for approval, she nodded to a human technician who activated the display. Immediately, the chamber filled with sounds and images of the battle, explosions, screams, the roar of tank cannons. The footage showed Varaxian troops firing on civilian structures, humans fighting desperately to protect their colony, and the moment when John's tank formation broke through enemy lines to reach trapped colonists. The council watched in stunned silence. Many had never witnessed actual combat before. Their species had been at peace for generations, leaving the fighting to others or to automated systems. When the footage ended, President Miller spoke again. "This is what we were forced to do when you ignored our pleas for help. This is what happens when humanity is left with no choice but to defend itself." From the Varaxian section came an angry clicking sound. Ambassador Crick-Tick rose to his full height, his insectoid limbs quivering with rage. "These humans distort the truth. They attacked our scientific expedition without provocation." Samantha Kelly, who had exited her tank and stood nearby, could not remain silent. "Scientific expedition? Your troops were armed with heavy weapons. They targeted civilian habitats first." The chamber erupted into shouting and arguments. Species took sides, some defending the humans, others supporting the Varaxians. Zolon banged a ceremonial staff against the floor, calling for order. In the midst of the chaos, the Taraxi ambassador approached John's tank. The ancient bark-skinned alien placed a gnarled hand on the blood-stained armor and looked up at John, with eyes that seemed to hold centuries of wisdom. "You fought well," the Taraxi said simply. "And now comes the harder battle, the one for truth." Grand Arbiter Zolon finally restored order. "The Council will now vote on sanctions against Earth for unauthorized military action." As the voting began, Greg Martinez leaned close to President Miller and whispered, "This isn't going how we hoped." "Wait," Miller replied. "The Taraxi representative requested to speak next. I think we may have an ally." The Taraxi ambassador moved slowly to the central platform. Unlike most species who use technology to assist their movement, The ancient alien walked with only a simple wooden staff. The chamber fell silent out of respect. The Taraxi were among the founding members of the Galactic Council, and their words carried enormous weight. I have watched this council for many cycles. The Taraxi began, his voice surprisingly strong for his frail appearance. I have seen justice and injustice. Today I fear we stand at the edge of a great wrong. The ambassador raised a small device in his gnarled hand. Before the vote, I wish to share something with the council. A new image appeared on the large screen. It showed encrypted communications between several council species, including the Varaxians and the Grell Collective. My species has monitored communications out of concern for stability in our galaxy, the Taraxi explained. What we found disturbs us greatly. The communications began to play, translated for all to understand. The humans develop too quickly. Their technology advances at an alarming rate. They must be contained before they become a threat. The Proxima colony is isolated. If the Varaxians attack, the Council can delay response long enough to ensure its destruction. With a major colony lost, humans will understand their place in the hierarchy. Gasps and murmurs spread through the chamber. The Varaxian ambassador clicked his mandibles furiously. These are forgeries. The Taraxi have always favored mammals over proper species. Grand Arbiter Zolan raised all four arms for silence. Ambassador, are you prepared to submit these communications for verification? They have already been verified by 3 independent sources, the Taraxi replied. This was a conspiracy to use the Varaxians as a weapon against humanity. John Rivers climbed out of his tank, unable to contain himself any longer. He approached the Varaxian section and stood before Ambassador Kriktik. The security personnel tensed, but President Miller gestured for them to wait. Your soldiers killed our people, John said, his voice carrying through the silent chamber. I saw children die. I saw families torn apart. All because some of you feared what we might become. The Varaxian towered over John, clicking his mandibles aggressively. For a moment, everyone thought violence would erupt in the sacred chamber. Instead, John stepped back. But we're not like you. We don't plot the destruction of others out of fear. We defend our own, but we're willing to live in peace. Samantha had been examining the council hall's architecture during the proceedings. She approached President Miller and whispered urgently in her ear, Madam President, the technology in this building, some of the components match what the Varaxians used against our colony. The energy signatures are identical. Miller nodded and addressed the council again. While we've been debating, our engineer has made a discovery. The weapons used against our colony share technology with this very building. She pointed to specific architectural elements. These energy conduits match the signature of weapons that killed our people. Who provided this technology to the Varaxians? The Grell Collective representative shifted uncomfortably, their hive-mind physical form rippling in a way that suggested distress. The Taraxi ambassador nodded sadly. The conspiracy runs deeper than even I suspected. The council erupted into chaos. Species accused each other of treachery. Old alliances fractured as the truth emerged. Some representatives left their seats in protest. Others demanded immediate investigation. In the midst of the disorder, Greg Martinez found himself standing next to the Taraxi ambassador. Why help us? Greg asked. Your species had nothing to gain. The ancient alien's eyes seemed to look through Greg rather than at him. We were like you once. Aggressive, determined, feared by others. We learned to channel those qualities toward creation rather than destruction. We see the same potential in humans. Grand Arbiter Zolan struggled to maintain order. As accusations flew across the chamber, he finally brought his staff down with such force that it cracked the platform beneath him. This council session is suspended pending full investigation, he declared. All sanctions against Earth are postponed. President Miller turned to John and Samantha. It's not a victory yet, but it's a start. John looked back at his blood-stained tank. What happens now? Now, Miller said, we negotiate from strength, not weakness. 3 weeks after the dramatic council session, humanity's position in the galaxy had changed completely. The council chambers, once a place where humans were barely tolerated, now housed a permanent human delegation in a position of prominence. Greg Martinez stood at the window of his new, much larger office, watching ships from dozens of species arrive for the treaty signing. The exposed conspiracy had shaken the galactic order to its core. "Ambassador Martinez," his assistant called. "President Miller has arrived." Greg turned as President Miller entered, looking refreshed and confident. "Madam President, welcome back to Galactia Prime." "Thank you, Greg. Your work here has been exceptional." They walked together toward the council chambers, passing the place where John's tank had been displayed. The tank was gone now, moved to a more appropriate location. "How? Is the memorial coming along?" Miller asked. "Almost complete," Greg replied. "The council provided prime space in the Great Plaza. John's tank will be the centerpiece, preserved exactly as it was, bloodstains and all." The memorial had been the council's idea, a permanent reminder of what happened when diplomacy failed. Not everyone had supported it, but the majority recognized its importance. In another part of the council complex, John Rivers and Samantha Kelly walked through the new Human Allied Defense Force headquarters. Several alien species had approached Earth for protection after the conspiracy was revealed. Humanity, once seen as dangerous and unpredictable, was now viewed by many as a potential defender. "Commander Rivers," a young officer said, saluting. "The Taraxi delegation is waiting for you." John still wasn't used to his new rank. After the council session, his promotion had come quickly. "Thank you, Lieutenant," he replied. "Engineer Kelly and I will see them now." Samantha smiled at the use of her official title. Her new role as head of the Interspecies Technology Exchange was challenging, but rewarding. Already, the combination of human ingenuity and alien technology had produced remarkable advances. They entered a conference room where the Taraxi ambassador waited with several younger members of his species. Commander Rivers, Engineer Kelly, the ancient alien greeted them. "I brought these younglings to meet the humans who changed our galaxy." One of the young Taraxi approached John curiously. "Is it true your machines were covered in blood when you came to the council?" "Yes," John said simply. "Both our blood and the blood of those who attacked us." "Were you not afraid?" John considered this. "We were. But humans have learned that sometimes you must face your fears to protect what matters." Across the city, in the Great Plaza, workers were completing the memorial. John's tank, exactly as it had been that day in the council chambers, stood on a platform of polished stone. A plaque described the Battle of Proxima Centauri and its significance in galactic history. Alien children gathered around it, listening as their parents explained its meaning. Some were frightened by the blood-stained war machine. Others were fascinated. "Are humans dangerous?" one child asked its parent. "All species can be dangerous when threatened," the parent replied. "Humans are different because they are willing to fight not just for themselves, but for others who cannot fight. That makes them both dangerous and valuable." In the council chambers, President Miller took her place at the signing table. The reorganization treaty would forever change how the galaxy was governed. No longer would a few ancient species control everything. Now all members would have meaningful representation. As she prepared to sign, Miller glanced up at the viewing gallery where John and Samantha had just arrived with the Taraxi delegation. "Today marks a new chapter for humanity and for the galaxy," Miller announced. "We came here as newcomers, ignored and underestimated. We proved ourselves through fire and blood. Now we offer our hand in genuine partnership." She signed the document with a traditional ink pen, another primitive human tool that now symbolized something powerful. That evening, John and Samantha stood on a balcony overlooking the Great Plaza. In the distance, they could see the memorial illuminated against the night sky. "Do you think there will be more fighting?" Samantha asked. "Probably," John replied honestly, "but maybe next time we won't have to fight alone." Below them, humans mingled with dozens of alien species. Children of various forms played together, while adults engaged in conversation. It wasn't perfect harmony, such things never are, but it was a beginning. "We came to the stars hoping to find friends," Samantha said. Instead, we found politics, prejudice, and war, just like on Earth. Yes, John agreed, but we also found allies and wonder and new possibilities. That's also very human. As night fell completely, the blood-stained tank gleamed under the memorial lights, a reminder of humanity's darkest and finest hour among the stars.